The judge looked down at the papers and calmly announced that the will left me nothing. Across the courtroom, my father smiled. My brother Nolan folded his hands like he had already won. I stood there holding a folder against my chest and waited for the room to settle. Then I took a breath and said 4 words that changed everything. You missed the box. The courtroom fell silent. Every head in the room turned toward me. My father's smile disappeared instantly. Nolan blinked in confusion. Judge Mercer slowly looked up from the documents and asked me to continue. That was the exact moment the atmosphere changed. Suddenly nobody was celebrating anymore. My name is Claire Harlan. I was 62 years old when my grandfather Walter passed away. I had spent more than 3 decades teaching English in Dayton. I never made a fortune. I measured success by former students who came back years later just to say thank you. My father always thought that made me soft. My brother Nolan was different. He was successful, confident, and always knew how to impress people. At family dinners, my father talked business with him for hours. When I spoke, I often felt invisible. In my father's eyes, Nolan looked like success. I looked like a teacher. The person who made that bearable was my grandfather Walter. He was a Korean War veteran, a dairy farmer, and one of the kindest men I had ever known. After my grandmother passed away, he became quieter every year. My father visited less often. Nolan only appeared when money or land was involved. But every Tuesday after work, I showed up. I brought groceries. I organized medications. I fixed broken appliances and listened to his stories over coffee. One evening he looked at me and said something I never forgot. People show their real face when they think you're no longer useful. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant. The final year of his life was difficult. His vision weakened. His knees failed him. Then one icy winter morning, he slipped in the barn and was rushed to the hospital. I rode in the ambulance beside him and stayed through every appointment and every rehab session. About 6 months before he died, he quietly pressed a small brass key into my hand. If it matters, he said softly, you'll know where to use it. I slipped it into my purse and honestly forgot about it. That's when I knew something was. Scene 10, The Secret Box. Days later, while everyone argued over the estate, I remembered the brass key. It led me to a locked metal box hidden inside my grandfather's workshop. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were letters, documents, financial records. Buried inside the box was a separate trust created years earlier by an independent estate attorney. My grandfather had prepared everything carefully. He knew exactly what might happen after he was gone. Judge Mercer spent a long time reading the documents. Then he found a handwritten letter from my grandfather. One sentence stopped the entire courtroom. I fear being treated like a wallet instead of a father. Not even Nolan. Weeks of investigations followed. Records were reviewed. Witnesses were interviewed. One piece at a time, the truth came out. My grandfather had protected most of his property through the trust long before anyone realized what he was doing. In the end, the trust was upheld. My father and brother received far less than they expected. Much of the estate went to charities, scholarships, and community projects that my grandfather personally selected. Later, while sorting through his final belongings, I found one last note. The greatest inheritance is not property. It is knowing who you are when the property is gone. I still keep that note on my desk today.